Okay, so serious question, real conversation. I'm gonna ask the teachers first. Teachers, do you feel safe going to school? Teaching, doing your job. Do you feel safe? My second question is for the parents. Does your children feel safe going to school? The reason why I asked that question is this video here is titled, and you know it's my guy, Sheriff Grady Judd, all right? This video is titled, 24 students arrested in 28 days for Florida school threats. What is going on? What is happening? Like, this is out of control. School is different from when me and you went, and the most you had to hear about was a fight. That was it. Nowadays, it's like a mini prison. So I had to ask that question, but we got to see what's going on here.
Safe and conducive to teaching and learning. However, recently, there's been an alarming increase in a rise in the number of online threats of violence, either being made as a joke or in a moment of anger. These actions are irresponsible and have serious legal consequences. Since the start of the 24-25 school year, 24 students have been arrested and charged with a second-degree felony for making a written online threat. Last year, we had to address over 2,500 threat assessments. And so that everybody understands, a threat assessment is any time a child makes an inappropriate statement, and that requires, in accordance with Florida statute, a response by the school district, law enforcement, and other agencies that we investigate those. Now, let me give you a little bit of an example of how that impacts our community as a whole. Not only does it create uncertainty and fear across our campuses with our families and our students, it also creates a burden on law enforcement. Each and every threat assessment can consume anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of a law enforcement officer's time, because part of the threat assessment process is we visit the school, we interview the student and the family, and law enforcement officers. That amount of time, again, multiplied by over 2,500 instances, is a good example of why this is becoming a problem for our community. And it's a problem that continues to grow. There's no secret that over the last few weeks, we've seen an incredible increase in the number of these types of threats being posted. And each media outlet across the state continues to document how school districts are responding to ensure, again, that our students are safe, our campuses are secure, and our families can feel secure knowing that their students are being taken care of each and every day. We are taking a zero-tolerance approach to this issue, and it's important for us to continue to remind our students and families. I'm very pleased. Our sheriff last year committed to doing a series of videos for us and with us so we could convey the importance and the seriousness of making these types of threats and the consequences that students would face. However, again, we continue to see an increase. So it's important for me to remind our families, students will be arrested. They will be charged with a second-degree felony, and from the school district's perspective, we will pursue the fullest extent of the consequences for any student or any non-student member of our community who phones these in or posts something online or social media or email.
Now, I know the crazy part is that you're gonna have parents that just be in an uproar saying, that's too harsh. These are kids. Kids will be kids. No, we can't say that these days, bro. Look at what's happened in the past. You can't say that. You watch the news. I click on and turn it on every now and again. Sometimes I can't take it, but I have to know what's going on. You can't say that kids will be. That's no longer. You got to nip this stuff in the bud quick. Or we'll all be seeing those candlelight vigils and all those little cards and things and different things, teddy bears and all that type of stuff put out for kids and a big thing with the kid's name on it. I'm tired of seeing that. So as harsh as this may sound, I'm championing it.
We will be seeking restitution. School districts are allowed to seek restitution for damages, and we'll be working closely with law enforcement, state's attorney's office, and other agencies to seek restitution. As an example, last Friday, we sent over 40 staff to Haines City High School so that we could screen and search every single student entering that campus. That team then immediately got deployed to 2 other middle schools, which consumed over 4 hours of our district staff's time. These are not school-based employees. These are district-based staff who respond and are part of our random searches that take place twice a month at all of our secondary schools. And that time is better utilized elsewhere. So we will be seeking restitution. Those cost estimates range anywhere from $2,500 to over $5,000. And that will be something that we continue to pursue. And expulsion. Students need to understand that that moment of anger or this belief that somehow this is funny will result in their removal from our school district, an assignment to an alternative school or another location. So this is a call to action for all of our parents and guardians. This alone is not a school district issue. We work very closely to educate our students on the appropriateness and the utilization of social media, but this is also a partnership. So I'm pleading with our families to have honest and lengthy conversations with their children about the seriousness of this issue and the potential consequences that not only will the child face, but the family could face financially. And so at this time, I'd be happy to turn it over to our sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. First and foremost, I want to thank this school board and our superintendent, Mr. Hyde, for the response to keeping kids safe. You have to have a safe environment to have a learning environment, and that exists in Polk County. And I sat on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission. We did a deep dive into why that event occurred. I've studied all of the shootings across the United States. There's a common thread. Words matter. There were signs in advance of all of these shootings, and people ignored them. Schools ignored them. Teachers ignored them. Parents ignored them. Law enforcement ignored them. And occasionally they end up with an active shooter. So my question has always been, well, if you want to ignore them until it's real, tell me which one is real. This school system said, listen, our children are going to be safe. As a result of that, when you look at the size of the school district, there's about 13,000 employees here at the school district. There is in the neighborhood of 125,000 kids that come to school every day. When school takes in, this is the single largest city in the county. And I praise the wisdom of the school board that said, hey, we're going to have a unified school response and a unified law enforcement response. So let me make it clear, we've had 28 days of school so far, and we've already had to arrest 24 students for written threats to kill or written.
Dang, I didn't even know it was to kill. Jeez, Christ, bro. Just hearing that number again just does something to me. 28 days, 24 students. You know what I mean? And it's not like you can sit here and say, okay, it's all of the parents, because it's not. I'm pretty sure some of those parents be getting on to those kids and they still go out and do what they want to do, you know? But some parents don't, and they turn a blind eye to it, like he said, bro. Oh my, 28 days, 24. Let that marinate. Let that sizzle. Let that marinate.
Threats to shoot up a school or written threats to place bombs. That is absolutely unequivocally unacceptable. And it's disruptive. Now, I always have a few parents or a few people go, oh, it's overreaction. Okay, Einstein, you tell me which is for real. And when you're perfect with your assumption and presumption and statements that, oh, all of this is fake, but I'll let you know when the real one is, then we'll stand down. But we're not going to let our children be in harm's way at school. And we are making it abundantly clear that we're holding those accountable. Now, let me take this a step further. It's not just the kids at school. You'll be disappointed if I didn't have a card. This is Antonio Stansel. He's 30 years of age. Last week, he called the Lakeland Police Department and said, somebody stole my AirPods and my firearm from my car overnight. So the police department, doing what they should, started pinging the AirPods, and guess where they pinged? At Kathleen High School, at the bus loop. So now we've got the whole school on heightened security because we've got what we believe is a student that's committed a burglary, stolen AirPods, stolen a firearm, and is now at the school with a gun. We locked down 3 buses. We put the school on security. As Mr. Hyde talked to, staff went there and the search was on. We found the kid. He looked us in the eye and go, I broke into the car and I took the AirPods, but I swear to you, there was no gun in the car. The normal response is, yeah, sure. Where's the gun? And the search went on. I swear to you, there's no gun. Well, there was no gun. Einstein here reported the gun stolen almost a month ago in Hillsborough County. And when we asked him, why do you realize what you've done, how you've disrupted the school? He said, well, why did you say that after you've already reported it stolen? He said, I thought I'd get a better police response if I told you that. Well, he got a response all right. He got a set of handcuffs and a trip to the county jail, but he still...
I'm convinced, fam, we don't live in a real place. We can't. Or either that or my simulation is messed up. It gotta be, fam. In order... Did he say that? What in your brain computes and makes that fall out of your mouth? It's gotta be broken from here to make... I don't get it. Oh man, y'all making me crazy.
Scared school staff and students, and it's totally inappropriate. So we have to work together. Our school system is doing the right thing. We accept words. They matter. We'll do a thorough and quick investigation. I think the news media, for being restrained in not reporting on all 355 anonymous tips we've had this year, or every arrest of a student, because that's not necessary. But the reality of it is that we're serious about keeping kids safe and creating a safe environment, so when kids go to school, we're not going to have an environment like Fort Knox where they're not safe, they feel like they're locked up. We're going to have a safe, warm, fun learning environment, but we're going to be dead serious about anyone who threatens to shoot or kill another person. Okay, thank you very much.
Chair, quick question.
Yes, sir.
There was another story about an 11-year-old that was arrested, and the picture was shown, and he was perp walked, and they released it. Are you willing to show the mug shot and perp walk these kids, and we can show it when they do these things?
Here's what I know. Sheriff Chitwood over in Volusia County has experienced like we have, an incredible growth of information. Well, part of it is Fortify Florida, which we're thankful that we have the system where people can report. He became frustrated and he perp walked an 11-year-old. You know, I'll never say never, but the reality is that when it comes to children that I show their pictures, I want to make sure that they're extremely dangerous kids. So people say, ooh, they're extremely dangerous kid. So, not some knucklehead who committed a second-degree felony, but he's just banging on the computer and thinks it's cool at the time. So I don't rule that out. I applaud Sheriff Chitwood for making an example of the person he had to make an example of. But I'm always, believe it or not, even though I show pictures every day, we are restrained in whose picture we show and who just needs to be dealt with by the system. But we're asking now on every one of these cases for investigative costs. So not only are you going to have to deal with the school district and their authority, you're also going to have to deal with the criminal justice system. And we're asking for restitution for all of the costs to investigate these cases. So it's one of these things like, seller beware. You sell us a threat, you're not only going to get felony charges, but mom and dad are going to get hefty bills. And it's in the thousands of dollars when all of this response occurs. So mom and dads, I have some ideas. First and foremost, when you put your kid to bed at night and you need to be there and put them to bed, take their cell phone into your bedroom. When you send it to school, tell them put it in your backpack and don't take it out unless you have a personal emergency. And whatever you do, never, ever, ever, ever text, email, go on social media and make any kind of threat at all. It will get you arrested before quick.
Sheriff, you talked about how this is a rising phenomenon. Have you heard from others? Maybe you mentioned Volusia County. Does it seem to be happening in counties all over the state?
Yes. Fortified Florida has done a good job marketing. So it's going up all over the county. And I would suggest, I haven't queried every county, but the sheriffs I've talked to, we're seeing an increase this year. Some of this, it's like everything else that we do. When we market it and make it a priority, people respond. And we want legitimate responses. We absolutely, and I underscore, want legitimate responses. But we don't want, I think, or he said, or she said. We want to know. And if someone types out a threat, I'm bringing a gun to school tomorrow, we want to hear that.
I got a legitimate question. What do y'all think is the difference between school now, and school back in the day, when we didn't have so many of these problems, and when it did happen, it was once in like you just, when it happened, it was like, oh my God, because it never hardly happens or ever happened at all. So it was once in a blue moon. What is the difference between now and back then? Seriously. And I know everybody's go-to is social media. I get that, different things, cell phones and all this kind of stuff like that. But what else could it be? What else could be different between now and then that's causing this to happen at a just exponential rate?
It's important. Words matter. But what we don't want is kids chattering back and forth and another kid saying, well, it turns out they were talking about a game they were playing online. Had nothing to do with the school, nothing to do with a real threat. We've got to check them all out. But words matter, and what you type on social media never goes away. It's there forever.
Sheriff, it seems like there was a national post that was sent out right at the beginning of the school year across the country. Kind of sort of got this ball rolling. I mean,
we end up with these TikTok challenges. Well, we'll TikTok you to jail if you follow those challenges. That's the bottom line to it. But that's what happens. It goes out as a TikTok challenge, or it's cool, or somebody does a rap video and challenges and do this and do that. Well, the overwhelming majority of the kids go, well, that's nuts and I'm not going to do it. But a few of the kids say, I'm nuts and I'm going to do it. And then we're going to arrest them.
Sheriff, what sort of jail time do they face for these things?
That is interesting. Music. Let's have that discussion. Is it the music? Is the music different between now and then? We have a new genre of music. I say new, has been out for years now, but drill music. A lot of people, that's been a topic of discussion online. Like what drill music has done to everyone that listens to it. So let's throw that out there. Is it music? Let's have these discussions.
They're juveniles, and they will go into the juvenile system. Depending on the validity of it, we can work with the state attorney's office and have them waived to adult court. But I underscore that's not normally what we do with these kinds of cases. We keep them in the juvenile system, and they can be kept in programs. They can receive probations and have to respond with different when they refer to putting them in a program, they're talking about locking them up. So there can be out of lockup programs. And the whole goal of this is to educate in advance, but hold them absolutely responsible. Now, I have to tell you, I believe the system's working. We're not getting a lot of people that are texting the second tip to shoot. And if we do, that gets more serious. But we've got to check, because in every school shooter, there were signs in advance that people ignored. This school district is not going to ignore them. We praise our school board members and our superintendent because we take them all seriously.
Sheriff, when you arrested these 24 kids, how did their parents react?
I don't know because I wasn't there, but I hope they reacted with the seriousness that they should have. If they didn't, then and this conduct continues, not only are the students responsible, but there does get to be a line where the parents are responsible for child neglect and not paying attention to their children. And you can be sure that we'll hold the parents accountable according to law in every instance where we can. If you don't manage your child, we're going to manage your child and you. It's your choice.
Sheriff, 24 students just seems so high. It's a shocking number. What's your reaction to 24 students? Is that?
Well, when you consider that all of last year we had 42, which is 42 too many, and in 28 days we've had 24, that's why we're all standing up here today, because we can't have any more of that.
Sheriff, of those 24 arrests, can you give us a sense of how they were detected? Were they mostly?
Fortified Florida had most of them. Kids responded, for which we applaud them and said, hey, I saw this threat to shoot up the school, shoot someone, and the variety of the written threat, it depends on who they're mad at, whether it's the teacher, just the school in general, another kid at school, but it will get you arrested and charged with a second-degree felony. Let me repeat what the superintendent said, there's zero tolerance for that.
It's crazy. My kid got to activate their survival skills when they go to school. It's like they're going in the military or something like that. They got to be aware. They got to be trying to look over someone's shoulder to see what they're texting in their cell phone instead of learning. Come on, man.
Were any of these phone calls, or were they all?
These were the ones that were written.
And I'm sorry, Fortified Florida is where you can report?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Superintendent?
Go ahead.
Mr. Hyde, are you doing anything to communicate to parents to try to get them to talk to their children about this?
Yeah, so this went out in our back to school memo as well. But this memo and this letter went out to all of our parents and guardians yesterday at noon, so they'd have more than enough time to review that. We sent it out in multiple languages, and the reason for today's press conference, and we're very appreciative of everyone who's here, is the message has to get out. And so we're trying to get this communication out through every possible venue so that parents can be well informed and understand that they're part of this. They're part of the solution to this issue, and we're asking them to assist us further.
Superintendent, I'm curious about your perspective. I think people see this 24 arrests and say, what is going on? So from your perspective, as somebody who's in the school district every day, what do you think is going on?
I think, unfortunately, many of our students believe that social media is an appropriate place for them to try to garner attention. We are very fortunate that to date we have been able to disqualify all of these threats. As the sheriff put it, we investigate and we complete more threat assessments than several others do, because we do not diminish the expectation. We investigate everything, even if it's just a comment expressed on a playground at an elementary school. We never know. And it's unfortunate that the news constantly reports, I think Orange County yesterday had a handgun brought to school by an elementary student. And that's the unfortunate reality. And so we want to be responsive. As a parent of a student here in Polk County Public Schools, I believe that perspective puts me in a unique position that not only am I responding as the district's lead educator, but I'm responding as a parent. And I would want every parent in our school district to understand how seriously we take this. But unfortunately for many of our students, there's a FOMO aspect to this, fear of missing out. As the sheriff pointed out, Fortify Florida is the most appropriate place for someone to post or share a concern. What happens, unfortunately, more often than not, is it goes to Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and other places, and it keeps getting redistributed. So even though we're able to dispel it as a rumor or a myth, it keeps circulating, so it keeps that frustration, that tension building in the community, and so we're forced to respond differently.
And the sheriff talked about the legal ramifications for these kids. So what happens on the school side? They're expelled, their whole journey is disrupted.
Expulsion is not typically permanent, and for many of these students, depending on what the state's attorney's office ultimately does, we work with those families to place these students in alternative education in an attempt to re-enter them into our school system at the point where it's most appropriate. So we spend a lot of time with counseling, intervention, monitoring, tracking. Our sheriff and the school district are committed to not simply just expelling these students, because if they've made a threat, we want to maintain them in our system where we can monitor them and support them, rather than have them disappear in the population and potentially become a larger threat or hazard to our community.
You said these had all been disqualified, so none of these were none of them actually had plans to come into school and commit harm?
That is correct.
Have you guys found any real weapons this year on campuses?
No, not to my knowledge.
Is there, or could there possibly be, this maybe for the sheriff, some type of incentives for kids to see something, say something like similar to Crime Stoppers or something like that?
Well, we have the Fortify Florida tip lines, those types of things. I don't know that we incentivize that to this point, and that could be something I could discuss with my board as a possibility moving forward. Our students do a good job, I will say that. I needed to migrate away from social media to Fortify Florida and more appropriate venues, because again, when it hits social media, it spreads like wildfire. And we've had recent events where a student posted a threat, another student grabbed that image and then put their school name on top saying this is going to happen at our school, and then another student grabbed it and said this is going to happen at our school, which subsequently led to, so Friday, just to give you a little bit of background, we had 17 arrests. By the time I was finalizing this memo on Monday, we were up to 24, because those students were taking those images and those screenshots and replicating them with the intent to disrupt their campus. Some of these students aren't just doing it because they're angry. Some of these students don't want to test on a certain day. They don't want to be in school that day. And so they try to leverage these types of things, just like calling in false bomb threats or pulling the fire alarms. It's unfortunate, but it's something that we have to take very seriously, because this has gone beyond just disrupting the campus. This is now a life-threatening message that students are spreading, and our parents, given the circumstances that have happened nationally, we don't have the luxury of not taking these serious. And as the sheriff said, there is no crystal ball. And even the threat assessment manual that's provided to us by the state of Florida says you are to take every threat seriously and fully investigate them, because you never know.